I want to begin today by putting an emphasis on a characteristic that I hope that you're able to have in broad measure in your life, and it's the characteristic of your attachments. You know, there are all sorts of people that you know and you get to know on different kinds of levels. And let's say, for example, you can have a person that you consider a friend, but then over time, as you get to know them in a more deep and a broad kind of way, and you learn about all sorts of background issues and you have many experiences, that person no longer is just a friend, that person is my friend. You feel attached to those individuals. And so when we talk about having attachments, we talk about having a good bonding with other individuals. We care about that other individual's safety. We have a sense of investment in their lives going well, and it's reciprocated. We have a sense of love, attraction, goodwill. That's part of a healthy, thriving relationship. Okay, good enough. Now, let's go into the world of narcissism and think about how they have attachments. And I can promise you it's not the same as that healthy form of attachment that I'm just mentioning briefly here. Now, narcissists can actually have this sense that says, yeah, I'll be able to help you out and I'm going to give you some pleasant experiences and all like that. But the more they get to know you, the more their attachment crosses a line to the point to where it's like they seem to have a sense of ownership over you. Now, have you ever had that kind of feeling like they feel like they want to own you and they want to make sure that you're not just somebody that is in their life, you're somebody that is obliged to who they are and they get to call the shots for you. And there are so many different illustrations we can come up with, and I'm going to get to that in just a minute. I want you to think just real easily about some of the ways that you can tell if a narcissist has that ownership mentality over you. It's like they have strong opinions about how you're supposed to think. You know, you need to think the way I think. Why? Because I own you. You need to feel the way I say you need to feel. You need to align with the people or ideas that I align with. You need to have the same preferences as I have, and you need to connect with the same kind of individuals that I want you to connect with. And they can have jealousies when things go in a different kind of way. And there's one element that underlies all of this that's crucial to you understanding their attitude of ownership over you as a person. And that is basically, narcissists genuinely believe that they own truth. It's like, well, I'm the ultimate arbitrator of what's correct and incorrect. I'm the enlightened one here. And so when you live in a way that's contrary to them, it's like you're not just abandoning them, you're abandoning ultimate truth. And they hold themselves in a very high and lofty position as they engage with you. And in your separateness from them, they can come at you with an attitude that says, hey, wait a minute. You didn't get my permission, or you didn't get my blessing to go and live in a certain different kind of way that you're now portraying. Who do you think you are? Rejecting me? Do you know who I am? And you're supposed to be loyal to me? Now, this attitude of ownership can be played out in so many different ways. Now, we can have little minutia kinds of things, but these minutia things pile up. As an example, how many of you have had the situation, whether it's with a family member or someone else, it may be that you're wearing a particular outfit and that person says, is that what you're going to wear today? And you're looking like, yeah, it's kind of what I have on. The implication is you didn't run that by me. You need to go change clothes. You know, that kind of thing. They can think in little bitty small things like that. Or are you going to have that to eat? You don't need to be eating that. You need to eat this instead. But then there can be some really large kinds of things that can imply their sense of ownership. And I can come up with so many different illustrations. As an example, I recall one man who had been in business with another fella and, for several years. And this man had a new opportunity to go off somewhere else. It wasn't going to mess up this first guy's way of life. And when it came time for him to move away and go to that other job, the fella that was being left behind just had this sense that said, you will not have a good transition away from me. You have to do everything according to me. And he grabbed hold of all the financial kind of things and all sorts of things that he could have done to help. It's like, I'm going to make your life miserable because you're obliged to me and you can't go do something separate like that. Or I've had let's say teachers that will talk about how they're trying to work with their students. And then you have these hovering helicopter parents. It's like, well, if you're teaching my child, I own you, and you have to do things my way. And they come in with all this sense of entitlement or demands. I recall a man who had gone 2 years into medical school, very bright fella. And after 2 years of medical school, and he was at the top of his class or near it, he realized, I don't want to be a doctor. I never wanted to be a doctor. I didn't want to major in biology. And he had all sorts of other ideas as to where he wanted to go. But his parents, specifically his father, had indicated there's a certain path you're supposed to take, and this one's it. And he had to muster up the courage to say, that's not where I am anymore. And he went on to an entirely different kind of career. But in doing so, was very miserable trying to break away from that person that felt that he owned him. Or another situation, a woman's 50 years old and she dreaded all the family holidays that would come along because her elderly mother had the idea, here's what you have to do. Since you're my daughter, you do things the way I say it ought to be. And when you do things, and you could probably come up with so many other kinds of illustrations along those lines, when you do things that shows that you're going to be your own separate and distinct person, that ownership mentality comes out in full force. And here come all the guilt trips that they put on you. That ownership narcissist can let you know, you're abandoning me and you can't do that. Or, you know what, you're just a selfish person. That's what your problem is. Or if you're going to do something different from what I say you need to do, your life is headed straight toward ruin. Or you're just an ingrate. Or you're messing up my life. That's how they think toward you. Now, let's be extremely clear here about one very primary part of life. And that is, and I dare say you can't possibly disagree with this, although I don't know. And that thought is simply this: no human being has the right to claim ownership over another human being. That's about as basic as it can get, isn't it? And it's not just arrogance when a narcissist has this ownership mentality over you. It's beyond arrogance. It's like, no, I have the final word and don't you forget it. And it's so insulting and it's so condescending. And yet that narcissistic person can be over there thinking, no, I'm quite right because I own truth. Don't you forget that. And so one of the things I'm hoping you can determine is, when I'm around somebody who's thinking in that frankly delusional style of thought, I'm not going to defend myself. I'm not going to apologize for who I am. And if you want to think you're going to have ownership of me and my life and my mind, no apologies, but you're sorely mistaken. I'm not going to be owned by anyone. See, let's underscore some primary thoughts about the narcissist, and that is these are deeply, profoundly insecure people. And they have to have you as their supply, so they want to get their claws in you to make you be a certain way to prop up their fragile egos. Now, they'll never say they have a fragile ego, but it's there. These are delusional thinkers. Who in the world appointed them king or queen over you? And it's just, but that's how they think. It's like, no, you need me to tell you what to do, and I speak in edicts. Or these are people who are devoid of empathy. They don't understand the nature of love. They're not at peace within themselves. They're not at peace with the world. And they operate with an addictive style of engagement with you. They're addicted to your affirmation. They're addicted to your adoration and your compliance. And I want you to think, and that's the person who wants me to lay down my way of thinking so that they can have ownership in my life? It just doesn't make sense when you put it that way, does it? Now, as you understand that they come at you with this sense of ownership, I'm hoping there are some conclusions that you can draw that are going to remove you from that, and like I say, with no particular apology. Now, if I am engaging with that narcissist who thinks that they're going to own me, my response to that is, you know what? I have zero need to curry favor from you. I have zero need to comply with your demands. I have zero need to read your ownership manual regarding my do's and don'ts. I have zero inclination to tremble when you put your claims on me and give me your threats about what's going to happen to me next. I have zero need to emotionally invest my emotional energy into you. I have zero inclination to fret about your retaliatory moves. You can be whatever you want to be. You know what? I'm going to have boundaries, and being me is going to be okay. You remember that song back in the early 1960s? You don't own me. You remember that one? Don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to say. That's my singing again, and I'm probably going to hear about it from my wife about my singing. But nonetheless, remember that song? You don't own me. So I want to close today with a primary thought as you think about your response to that narcissistic person that says they want to get into your mind and claim ownership. And that's very simply this. For me, every day is Independence Day. Independence means I get to choose for myself who I'm going to be. And I'm willing to have attachments and have investments towards individuals, but that's not the same as laying down my personhood and allowing somebody else to say, I claim you as somebody that I own. You don't own me. I do hope that you gain some good awareness and insight from videos such as this. And if you've not already done so, I would invite you to hit that subscribe button below the video here, that little bell right next to it. You know, many times when you hear videos such as this, it can stir up thoughts about things that have gone on in your life. And if you need to have some counseling, I would encourage you to invest in that counseling. We vetted a trusted sponsor that can help you. And this is for online counseling. And many people these days are going in that direction, and I'm all for it. So we have a link that would take you to that. And if you need the help, then take care of yourself and do so. We also have links to my books, my online video workshops, and then our website, so survivingnarcissism.tv, where we have lots of articles and quizzes and things like that augment what we're doing here, and my drlescarter.com. So despite my bad singing, you really don't own me. And knowing that and knowing that you can have that sense that says, I'm going to be true to myself, I'm hoping that you can lean into your own self-confidence and you can lean into your own good decision-making skills. Be free, be independent, be true to who you are, as opposed to filtering it through some other individual's notion about what they say you're supposed to be.